So I'm very grateful to all of you for coming this evening to experience a session in Krishna conscious philosophy and culture. I'm going to speak on the art of happiness based on the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The founder of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, he arrived in London after he had established temples in different parts of the world. One reporter challenged Srila Prabhupada and said, "Swamiji, what brings you to London? Why have you come here?" And Prabhupada said, "Well, the British spent last 300-400 years looting and stealing so many things from India. They took away various jewels, rubies, emeralds, but they forgot to steal the most important asset, the Bhagavad Gita. I have come to give home delivery." So you'll be happy to know that in the last 50 years, devotees of ISKCON have distributed more than 500 million pieces of Bhagavad Gita and related literatures all over the world. So the question arises that is the Gita relevant in our life for creating transformation and happiness? The electric bulb was invented in America, but people use it all over the world because of its utility. It helps solve a problem. So if something creates a facility to solve a problem, solve an issue, why not utilize it? And therefore, India has now become famous all over the world for sending IT professionals, the information technology professionals all over the world. But the most important information available from India and meant to be exported all over the world is the spiritual information and technology available in Bhagavad Gita. And His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada brought that to America in 1966, and now it has spread all over the world in the form of more than 750 temples of ISKCON globally. So Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to help appreciate that the Gita is something for each one of us to minimize our problems, maximize our experience of love and joy in our lives. I was like traveling in an airport, and as I was going to catch the flight, somebody called upon me from behind, and I turned back. And he said, Swamiji, are you from ISKCON? I said, yes. So, do you have the Gita? I said, well, we have the Gita in the temple, not here. So he came up to me and said, I am very much eager to take the Gita because, looks like now I am at a stage in life where I think I should study the Gita. So he was a pretty elderly person. And I said, well, that's very good that you want to study the Gita. What do you do? He said, I am CA. I said, oh, you are a chartered accountant. He said, no, complete Aram. And he said, I feel this Gita is meant for this kind of situation only. When you are active, doing all kinds of other things in life, taking care of a family, business, I don't think it is possible to study and apply the Gita. Well, the Gita was spoken to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And battlefield is a pretty active place. And just before the battle was about to begin, the Gita was spoken. The Gita was not spoken after the battle when everybody was killed. And then in total silence, Krishna spoke the Gita. Krishna spoke the Gita before the battle. Arjuna took out time, and in 1 hour, the Gita was spoken. Desha kalartha yuktani Kirtapopashamani cha haranti prasabham chittam Govinda abhitani me. The message of the Gita is such that it is imbued with the power to create meaning in our life as per time, place and circumstance, and create solutions when we are looking for them at different points in life. And therefore, we will discuss today the principles of happiness. Studies have revealed that although over the last 40 years the GDP in several countries has doubled, including that in America, but the happiness index has in fact decreased by at least 5%. And therefore, various studies have shown that only till a certain extent all your money, status, wealth, property, etc. can add happiness. Beyond that, if you compare two people having the same situation, the overall index of happiness does not increase. And therefore, many researchers have revealed that all of us carry a certain genetic code, and scientists feel 60% of our experience of happiness is dependent on that. Then they also feel, at least 50%. 10% of what they see is based on the circumstances in which we are. So that takes care of almost 60% of that, and the remaining 40% is basically upon the kind of will which we use. So therefore, apart from this, there is another level of what kind of happiness we can actually attain, which is nothing to do with our codes from our genes, which has nothing to do with our circumstances, which has nothing to do with our conscious choice. So beyond choices, beyond circumstances, beyond codes is what comes, the principle of consciousness. And therefore, today we are going to be discussing how we can experience happiness by igniting our spiritual consciousness. Why, in spite of our efforts, we experience 3 types of barriers in experiencing satisfaction and joy in our life. The first kind of barrier is basically due to our feeling that we have lost on certain opportunities on making choices, and that is known as an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means if I make one choice, I decide to come here for the evening satsang program to hear from some speaker. Because of having made that choice, you have missed out on 5 or 7 other opportunities which you could have done at the same time now, this evening. And therefore, even after making this choice, the mind is constantly figuring out that at the cost of attending here, what are the things which I am missing out on. So basically, that is known as the opportunity cost. And so in the Gita, Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsam Sangasteshu Pajayate Sanga Sanjayate Kamat Krodho Vijayate. That we are always contemplating whether we have made the right choice, and rather than remaining in the present, we are contemplating on what we do not have and what we have not received. And that is known as the opportunity cost. I remember when I was in IIT, at that time, one of my colleagues who was very bright in his studies attempted to commit suicide. So I was very shocked because I considered him to be a very, very bright student. And then somehow his suicide attempt failed because the ceiling fan from which he would try to hang himself, the rope was not very strong, it broke. His weight was more and he couldn't figure it out. And so he survived. And so I asked him that why did you try to commit suicide? And he looked at me and said, in all my exams so far, I've always been the topper. In this exam, I got the silver medal. I could not handle it. I tried to hang myself. And therefore, I realized that happiness is more than just achievements. And the gap between expectation and reality creates stress. Stress is created due to the gap between expectation and reality. And so in the same college, I had 4 or 5 of my other friends. And in the same exam, they failed in 3 to 4 subjects. But they were moving around the campus blissfully, peacefully, without any problem, blessing everyone. And when I approached them and asked them that I thought you would be in most anxiety, but you are moving around peacefully. How is it? You have failed in so many subjects. How is that you are not in anxiety? And they said our philosophy is very simple. Entering college is our job. Taking us out of the college is college's job. I don't recommend that to the students here. But I realized that yes, many times we underestimate the power of our mind, the power of our thoughts, and the power of our desires. And therefore, when we make a certain choice, we lose out on other choices. And therefore, the mind is always contemplating on what we have lost and not on what we have currently received. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna that Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshta sukha tatha manapamaneyo. My dear Arjuna, control your mind, and the control of mind will result in the experience of being in the present. And then you will actually experience the real joy and satisfaction. Sitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamaneyo. And therefore, traditional Vedic wisdom is all centered around how each one of us can experience existence in the present moment by connecting our mind and our senses with the Supreme Lord. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the method for doing it by chanting the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. As I shared with you at the beginning, every country has its speciality. Japan is famous for electronics, China is famous for manufacturing, Israel is famous for its irrigation systems, Germany is famous for its manufacture of cars and so many other kinds of technologies. And India is famous for its spiritual technology. And we should understand that the tools and the methods available to control the mind are right there in the ancient literature. There was a German traveler who came to Mumbai and he visited an Udupi restaurant. He had never been to an Udupi restaurant before, and in those days they used to give out food in the Udupi restaurant on banana leaf. So he was given all the dosa, idli, vada in banana leaf. He ate the idli, dosa, vada. He did not know what to do with the banana leaf, started eating that also. So on the way out, the manager asked him, how was the food? So he said, the food was good, but the salad was very stiff. So people get confused when they come to India, that what exactly is the speciality of this place. There is so much of diversity. But all of that diversity is united on the platform and the foundation of the knowledge of the soul. And therefore, Krishna is describing the great classic Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to demonstrate that Gita is not simply for armchair speculation. Gita is for everyday application in our personal lives, in our family lives, and in our professional lives. And when we understand this principle, then we are able to actually apply it and experience transformation in our lives. Therefore, Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that in the 4th chapter, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagasha tasya kartaram vidhyakartaram avyayam. These different classes in society have created so that the various functions can be performed. But people performing all the different kinds of functions, they actually have to realize that me, the soul, am different from all of this body. And therefore, Krishna spends his valuable time explaining to Arjuna the concept of the Bhagavad Gita. And he says in the 9th chapter, Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Vinamuttamam Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartumabhyayam. My dear Arjuna, this knowledge I am giving to you. Why? Because you are confused on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. You are simply seeing how all of your relatives will be destroyed and killed. And as a result, how your own happiness will be affected. Arjuna was a warrior who had dealt with various difficult circumstances in the past, had always attained victory. Arjuna had the means and the weapons to kill all the different enemies. Arjuna was expert in fighting the war. Arjuna knew how to fight. Arjuna knew when to fight. Arjuna knew what to do to fight. But Krishna changed the circumstances in his life a little bit. And because of that, when Arjuna saw Bhishma in front of him, Drona in front of him, Arjuna started thinking, as long as Duryodhana and Dushasan were there in front of me, I was convinced why to fight. But when I see my grandfather, who is supposed to be loved, when I see my teacher, Dronacharya, who is supposed to be respected, I am getting confused on why to fight. And therefore Krishna is revealing that someone as expert as Arjuna, who had a career record of 100% success, who was supreme most in his abilities of skill in the whole universe, a skilled, expert, highly successful professional like Arjuna can go through circumstances in life when he starts questioning his own existential presence. And the large questions crop up in his mind. Why should I do what I am doing, which has made me successful and brought me till here? And at that point, Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna to help Arjuna understand why he should fight. That he is fighting not for a selfish cause, for a selfless cause. And when one is fighting for a selfless cause, that cause is sometimes greater than all of our various selfish considerations put together. And there is no question of happiness in life without gratitude and service attitude. And therefore Krishna inspired Arjuna to fight this battle of Kurukshetra. Vanchitoham Maharaja Harina Bandhurupina Yena me apagatat tejam Deha me apagatam tejam Deva Vismapanam Mahat. Arjuna says, my dear Yudhishthir, now that Krishna has suddenly disappeared, I do not know how I will function. Arjuna is feeling helpless after Krishna ends his pastimes. But in that state of helplessness, Arjuna again takes shelter of this beautiful, brilliant knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. And this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita helps us understand that no matter what other opportunities may be present, it is our duty to be focused in the current moment. And so Krishna tells Arjuna, Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Focus on the present moment. And that is the essence of all knowledge. One of my friends was visiting a conference and someone showed him a business card. And the business card had his name, and below the name was his educational qualification, which said PhD BF. So he got bewildered, what is this qualification? So he said, this is PhD but fail. He says, why did you print like this? He said, what to do? My father wanted me to be PhD. And then after 2 years I realized, I am not meant for this. But then there was pressure from the family, you should attend conferences at least. So then if I go without a PhD written in the business card, people will throw me out. So I added BF also. But you know what? Most people think this BF is a qualification beyond PhD. You are the first person who is asking such detailed questions. And therefore, the most important principle is to appreciate that each one of us in our particular situation, however insignificant we may be as a soul, have a very significant responsibility. And that is that we offer this present moment in the service of Lord and the Lord's mission. And in this way, the transformation actually begins. And therefore, Krishna tells Arjuna that the mind is the greatest enemy. Mana eva manushyanam karanam moksha bandhayoho bandhaya vishya sangha mukti nirvishem mana. The mind must be controlled, otherwise the mind can convert friend into enemy, enemy into friend. A man was sitting under a tree and he was dozing off. There was a hole, snake hole right there, 2 holes. In one hole a snake was living, in another hole a rat was living. So the snake came out. Now the rat came out. The snake came out and the snake came and bit the man. After biting the man, the snake went inside the hole. When the man was bitten, in the middle of his sleep he was jolted awake. So he shouted loudly, "Ah!" And when he got up, by hearing that sound, the mouse came out. The man turned around and saw the rat coming out of the hole, and the man thought, the rat has bitten me, started chastising the rat. The rat felt offended. I didn't do anything. Still I got chastised. I'll show him now. So the rat went inside the hole, waited for the man to go to sleep again. The rat came out now, bit the man. After biting the man, the rat went inside the hole. The man shouted loudly and got up. The snake came out. The man turned around, saw the snake, got a heart attack, died. Now the question is, who killed the man? The rat or the snake? His own fear arising from his mind. And therefore, here, when we look at situations, many times we look at various opportunities which we may have lost, and we keep lamenting about it. Nayam jano me sukha dukha hetu na devatatma graha karma kala mana param karanama mananti sansara chakram parivartayetya. All the various perceptions which we experience in life is not due to the various people around us. When we go through misery, we should not find fault with the people. Nayam janome, he is not responsible for my difficult situation. Na devatatma, not the demigods. Na graha, not the various planets. Na karma, na kala, manaparam karanamamananti. The mind is responsible for this samsara chakram parivartayetya. So therefore, the first principle is how we can actually understand the working of the mind and how we can figure out that yes, let me be focused in the present moment, and the biggest cause of dissatisfaction, the first cause of dissatisfaction is having made a choice. The mind continues contemplating on other things which we are losing on. The second is known as the principle of regret. That having made the choice, once we make the choice, then after making the choice, then we start regretting that the experience is not as I had expected. I have already made the choice what to do. And therefore, this is a very important principle that as far as the choice is concerned, it is known as Swatantrata Ratna. And so unlimited choices are available, and studies have shown that as the number of choices increase, it becomes more and more difficult for people to experience satisfaction and joy. Previously people would just do what they could do, but now with the internet available, they are just seeing so many things happening, so many places, and there is always bewilderment that, oh, I made this choice and I am going through this experience. Is this the highest, or is there something higher than this? And therefore people are confused in their professions, they are confused in their relationships, people are confused in the various kinds of activities they are doing, doubtful whether after having made this choice, should I celebrate or should I regret? So therefore this is called regret sensitivity as described by Devamrit Maharaj. And therefore this has to be understood very carefully, and Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama apayano anityas tantitikshas svabharata. The appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress is just like appearance and disappearance of summer and winter seasons. So you must try to tolerate it, my dear Arjuna. Please understand that no situation can be fully blissful and no situation will be fully miserable. You have to focus on performing your duty and not be searching for selfish pleasure, but act out of a sense of duty. That is the beginning platform of happiness. Each one of us have been given certain qualities. And one of the greatest cause of distress in our life is the sense of comparison. When we compare, we become miserable. To overcome this tendency to compare and focus on what we can actually contribute in this current situation. There was someone who was taking a seminar on how to give public speaking. And then there were so many people who were attending this seminar. And the person who was teaching the seminar, he gave an example that if you want to be a very effective public speaker, the beginning of your lecture has to be sensational. And then he said, I'll give you an example. And he said, the best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. Everybody got bewildered. And he said, and that lady is my mother. So there was somebody who was attending that lecture. He went to his village and called the whole village. Said, I have become public speaker. And when the whole village came, he got up and said, the best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. And then out of nervousness, he forgot the next line. And he was trying his level best to remember. And after a few seconds, he said, and I can't remember who she was. So therefore, there is no point comparing things with each other. Because ultimately each one of us is supposed to bring something as a sense of contribution. So Krishna says, Yad karoshi yad ashnasi, yad juhosi nadasiyat, yad tapasyasi kaunteya, tad kurushvamadarpanam. Please offer what you can as per your capacity in the Lord's service. And if you are always thinking in terms of desire, motivation due to fear, fear and desire due to influence the mode of ignorance and mode of passion. The source of happiness begins when we start having motivations from the mode of goodness, from a sense of duty. Let me do this because it is my duty, and higher than duty is love. And therefore here, this principle is very important. Mora karma mora hate galai bandhiya, ku vishay vishta karte diyache philaiya. Mlech jati mlech sevi kari mlech karam, go brahman drohe sange amara sangam. Rup and Sanatana are telling Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that we simply wasted our time and life in sense gratification, and thus we tied a noose around our own neck because we were simply concerned with serving the fallen souls for our own sense gratification. And therefore, the sense of selfishness creates anxiety, and the sense of selflessness creates joy. And so there are many problems which appear in our life. But if we approach the problem in a way that the problem ultimately can be solved sustainably, and not that the solution to the problem becomes bigger than the original problem. And therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj mentions that the nature of material solutions is that the solution becomes greater than the original problem. In Delhi, in the early 1900s, there was a big problem. And there were lots of cobra snakes, which were creating trouble in the city of Delhi. And because of the influence of the cobra snakes, the British government did not know what to do. So they made a scheme and they declared that anyone gets dead cobra, he'll be given 30 paise. So they thought people will bring all these dead cobras to them, and the cobra population will decrease. But they did not realize that people around Delhi had out-of-box thinking. They saw this as an opportunity to rear cobras. And so many farmers started having cobra farms. And the cobra population tripled. And the British were bewildered, and when they found out what was happening, that instead of bringing dead cobras, people saw this as a business opportunity. So they declared, we are scrapping the scheme. You will not get any money even if you bring dead cobra. The farmers became angry, released all the cobras inside Delhi. So this is famously known as the cobra effect. When the solution is worse than the original problem. And therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, unless you understand who you are, whatever other solution you try to bring will only add to the original problem. And therefore, this principle is very important of appreciating that within a given set of circumstances, no matter how we try, whatever choice we make, we will never have the satisfaction of having everything going as per our desire. And therefore, we have to learn to tolerate. When I joined the ashram, one of the other people also came and joined. And he was sent to the kitchen to serve with me. And when he was sent to the kitchen, after 1 week he started complaining. I came and joined ISKCON so that I will be getting an opportunity to preach Sanatan Dharma. These people have sent me in the kitchen to make chapati. My talent is being misused. I came here to actually spread Sanatan Dharma, not make chapati. So I said, why you are complaining to me? I am also in kitchen only. So you and me discussing is not going to help. This is not good. People should realize who is who. And then after some time he became angry, and after 2 weeks he left. And while leaving he told me, I came here to preach, but you guys engaged me in making chapati. 10 years later I met him at a program. He came up to me running and he said, you know what, after leaving the temple I got married. My wife got back pain. Every day at home I am only making chapati. And he said, maybe I should have tolerated and realized that within the choice I have made, how to see something positive. So therefore, this regret sensitivity is something which bothers us all the time. That having made the choice, there is constant doubt that whether this choice is good or not. And this happens because of lack of gratitude. So in the Bhagavatam it is described, Tam sukharadhyam rijubhir ananya sharane indribhir kritagya kono seveta duraradhyam asadubhir. If we do not have gratitude, we will not be able to practice bhakti. Gratitude is a consciousness by which we are able to remember what someone has done for me. I am present here and I am able to do things in life because of the contribution of so many people in my life. Am I conscious of that? Am I able to remember them? Am I able to thank them? If there is no air, there is no water, how will I survive? Someone is supplying that. Am I feeling grateful for that? There was a beggar who went to a lady's house and said, please give me something. This was in a village and the lady was making on a wooden stove. And she brought out a lot of ash from the wooden stove and dumped it into this beggar's outstretched cloth. And the beggar looked at the lady and said, thank you very much, I'll come again tomorrow. She said, I gave so much of useless ash to you, still you will come tomorrow, why you will come? And the beggar said, my dear lady, I am very happy that today at least you have begun the process of giving. Today you have given ash, tomorrow you will give cash. We have to see the positive in what we have received now. And therefore, Vastrapaya Raja Bhila Ananditaman Prabhu Rupa Kori Kori Vastrira Pujan. When we go through a certain situation, we can either see what we do not have, or we can decide to focus on what we have. And when Pratapadra Maharaj received Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chadar, Mahaprabhu was refusing to give him direct darshan. He was refusing to give him his embrace, but he sent him his chadar, his cloth, and Pratapadra Maharaj felt gratitude. And therefore, when we start experiencing grace, we should express gratitude for that grace. And that expression of gratitude will open up channels for further grace to flow. And that's the principle here being described. The third cause of our dissatisfaction, apart from looking at the lost opportunities and regretting the choices we have made, is that even if we go through a sense of satisfaction and happiness, that yes, I made the right choice, I got what I was always hankering for, and once you get that object, that situation, that person, that experience which you have been hankering for, the third principle which causes dissatisfaction is familiarity. Ati paricayat avagya savatakamanat anadaro bhavati malaye billa purandare chandanam kurukashta indanam kurute. It is described that familiarity breeds contempt. So initially, the object or the person or the situation gives some kind of excitement, but after some time, we just get used to it. That's the nature of material relationships. And therefore, we should be extremely grateful for what we have, and we should realize that even after going through all the struggle and after having experienced this, gradually it is becoming stale and I am losing interest in this. And so Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yahi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. When we approach people, circumstances, situations with a desire to enjoy this kind of fleeting experience of some joy, then familiarity, and then feeling bored will manifest. Krishna says, Adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu. Therefore, what is very exciting in the beginning then becomes very boring after some time. And so we have to change our consciousness as to how we approach this. And when we change our consciousness to that of gratitude, to that of selflessness, to that of realizing it is such a rare opportunity, it is a great benediction which has come my way, then the same situation will create excitement every moment. For example, water. Most people are not aware that 97.5% of all the water available on the planet is salty water. Only 2.5% of the water on the planet is actually fresh water. Out of that 2.5%, 68.9% is in the glaciers and 30.8% is actually in the underground regions. So only 0.3% of fresh water is what you see in the rivers and lakes. And therefore, when we get drinking water and when we see fresh water, we should feel grateful that actually it is such a rare opportunity for us to acknowledge the Lord's mercy and grace that is providing us these facilities, and the reports are demonstrating that climate change is threatening in such a terrible manner that practically there are fossil fuels available in terms of coal over for the next 100 years, and oil and gas is available only for the next 50 years. So therefore, whatever resources we have, are we feeling grateful for that? Or are we in this incessant, insatiable thirst to quench our sense gratification, compete with others and defeat others, inspired by a feeling of lust, anger and envy? And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Trividham narakasyedam dvaram nashanam atmana kamam krodham tatha lobham tasmat etatrayam tyajet. My dear Arjuna, instead of trying to defeat others, instead of trying to destroy others, try to destroy these three enemies within: lust, anger and greed. These are your real enemies. Do not try to see enemies without, see the enemies within. I was giving a program in a jail many years ago, and then I gave a talk and I asked for questions. So there were 500 prisoners in front of me. This was Yeravada jail in Pune. And I like jail programs because the audience is guaranteed there. You don't have to advertise. You know, a lot of effort was spent in advertising and but there they just open the door and the audience is right there. So then I asked for questions. One of the prisoners raised his hand and said, I have a question. I said, ask. He said, I want to come on the stage and ask. I turned to the commissioner of police who was next to me and said, who is he? And he said, this guy has committed 12 murders. I said, am I going to be 13? Why he wants to come on the stage? He says, no, don't worry, let him come. So he came on the stage and he asked a very, very philosophical question on the microphone. And then all the audience started clapping that there is Pandit amongst us also. And so after his question, I gave some answer. I talked to him separately and I said, you are so young and you have been, sentenced to life imprisonment. Did you not figure out or realize what you were doing while you were committing those murders? He said, what to do? I became blinded by anger. And this anger repeatedly blinds me. I am unable to see what I am doing. It clouds my discrimination completely. And therefore, when people do not have control over their mind and their senses, they become crazy. And therefore, the greatest 5 myths people have is money can bring happiness. Money can bring happiness is the first myth. They feel technology can bring well-being. They feel weapons can bring security. People feel earth has unlimited resources to supply our needs. And fifth, they feel earth is an unlimited sink where all our wastes can be disposed. But actually speaking, it is not the case. If you take the example of Delhi, yes, the economy is growing, and then people want to display that growth in economy by purchasing new cars. In 1 year, in the city of Delhi, 1 billion liters of petrol and diesel is consumed. To burn that, you need 15 times the amount of oxygen, so 15 billion liters of oxygen is required. One tree gives around 120 kg of oxygen every year. So in effect, you actually need 600 million trees to be able to release that much oxygen, which requires 47,000 square kilometers of trees. And Delhi NCR is hardly 1,400 square kilometers. So you can imagine from where all of that pollution is going to go. And therefore, when we look at the situations around us with the perspective of how I can exploit and enjoy, that creates the feeling of familiarity after some time, and we just get fed up with the situation. There are three types of families described in the Shastras. First is Parthivaras, second is Swargiyaras, and third is Vaikuntharas. Parthivaras is family come together simply for mutual exploitation, enjoyment. And second is Swargiyaras, where there is a feeling of let us sacrifice for a higher cause. Third is Vaikuntharas, where we keep Krishna in the center. And therefore, countries like Luxembourg are currently going through 87% divorce rate. The global divorce rate is 44%. And I see many people here are from India. And so India is still doing pretty good. And the divorce rate is lowest in the world at 1%. And one of the very important focus areas always has been how we can add spirituality in the dimension of our family life, and a family which prays together stays together. I was doing a talk, in one college, and someone came up to me and started speaking to me in Hindi. And this was outside of India, and the person appeared to be, foreigner. And I asked him, "You are Indian?" He says, "No." I said, "How do you speak Hindi?" He said, "Well, I grew up in an opulent family. My father gave me everything in life, but when I was 18 years old, I asked my dad, 'You gave me everything in life except the happiness of being part of a cozy, loving, emotionally secure family because you were divorced, and I grew up all alone. Now I want to experience what is the love of a family. What will you do for me?' His father said, it's too late for me to do anything. But if you really want to experience what is family, then maybe you can go to one of those places in India and live with someone." So he took a flight and came to one of the cities in India, and then he approached somebody there in Varanasi and said, "Please allow me to stay with you as a paying guest for next 2 years. I just want to experience what it means to be part of a family, to live with a family, to experience relationships. If you allow me to live with you for 2 years, every month I will give you rent of 1 lakh rupees. That family said, "Why 2 years? Stay whole life." And they said, "If you have other friends who want to experience, you can call me." So they thought about new concept, family tourism. So many times we take things for granted. And therefore, Goldman Sachs made a report that from 2016 to 2025 period, the infrastructure investment required to transform India was around $1.4 trillion, out of which $800 billion was going to come from family savings. And therefore, amongst all the savings ratio in India, the highest, of more than 85%, is the family savings. So therefore, the greatest contributor to economy is the housewives. And they're actually, when the family culture is strong, then one would want to save for the family, for the health, for the education, for the samskaras, for the future. But as soon as these feelings start dissipating, then gradually it becomes more and more difficult to lead a streamlined life personally and streamlined life in harmony with society. And therefore, dear friends, things only grow when we invest in them. If you invest in technology, technology grows. If you invest in trade, trade grows. You invest in skills, your skills become more expert. Similarly, if you want your family values to grow, you have to invest in the family. And therefore, Krishna consciousness is the whole science about how you can keep Krishna in the center, and keeping Krishna in the center, how you can actually be part of a spiritual family. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. When you keep Krishna in the center, by the principle of keeping Krishna in the center, Every member in the family gets connected to chant the holy names, offer the bhoga to Krishna, and simply by doing that, the transformation begins. So all you need to do is do three things. First, you chant in front of Krishna's altar, Krishna Nam. Second, Krishna Katha. The family comes together and hears Bhagavad Gita together, studies Bhagavad Gita together. I was showing Bhagavad Gita to one gentleman in the local train in Mumbai. He looked at me and said, "Is the Gita for free?" I said, "Gita is not for free, it is for 70 rupees. He said, "Krishna spoke Gita to Arjuna free. Why you are charging 70 rupees?" I said, "Krishna spoke to Arjuna in Kurukshetra, this is Mumbai, 70 rupees is transport charge." So therefore, people feel, many people tell, "Oh, we don't want to bring Gita at home. We are very afraid because after Gita, Kurukshetra begins." So I said, "Is it Vrindavan now?" He said, "No." "So what? Bring this. This will anyway improve." So therefore, Krishna Nam, Krishna Katha, and third is Krishna Prasad. Ghore Krishna bhaje more kora ashirvade, nilachale asi jena tomar prasade, aiche ann ye Krishna ke karaye bhojan, janme janme shire dharo tahar charan. If you keep Krishna in the center, anyway you have to eat. Whether you are interested in bhajan or not, every family is interested in bhojan. So Krishna is saying, "I will give you an opportunity to convert your bhojan into bhajan when you offer it to me." So when you offer to Krishna bhoga, what comes out is prasad, and when the whole family takes part in honoring that prasadam, transformation of consciousness begins. Ahara shuddho, sattva shuddhi, sattva shuddho, dhrosmriti, smriti lamme, sarvagranthina vipramoksha. From the purification of food, gradually mode of goodness comes. And then from the mode of goodness, proper discrimination, and everything manifests. I was trying to give, prasadam to one boy, and he was refusing. "No, I will not take." I said, "What is the problem? You are the first guy who is refusing prasad. Why don't you take prasad?" He says, "No, I am afraid if I take this prasad, my hairstyle will become like yours." So many people feel there is something mixed in that prasad. But actually, the majority of those who practice Krishna consciousness will always be part of the Grihasthashram. And all of you have opportunity to make Krishna as the center of your lives. When Bhagavan becomes center of your homes, that home becomes Bhavan. Bhavan is where Bhagavan is there. If Bhagavan is removed, Bhagavan not there, then what remains is one, a forest. And therefore, today's program is to inspire each one of you to actually bring Krishna at the center of your families and see the transformation each one of you experience as a result of chanting the holy names of Krishna, reading, studying, discussing the Gita together along with your family, along with your children. Let the children who are totally dependent on you for their future get the best experience in life by having a connection with the beautiful sublime philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Let them understand what are the ultimate principles of life, what is the purpose of life. Give them an opportunity and they will be grateful to you for making that opportunity available to them when they were not in a position to make that decision themselves. They are given that opportunity to actually understand and have that experience and culture of a warm, loving family centered around hearing, chanting, worshipping, serving Krishna as the center of home. And then we will be able to overcome the regrets caused due to loss of opportunity regret of making some present choices and the problems caused due to familiarity after having made the choice and after having such selfishness, that selfishness takes away all the opportunities for experiencing joy and satisfaction. Pragad premer ei swabhava achar nij dukha vignadir no kore vichar. That ultimately every relationship has scarcity, impediment, discomfort and unhappiness. The art of happiness is not to focus on what you don't have, but to focus on what you have. The art of happiness is not to focus on your own selfish interests, but it is to focus on how you can serve and please selflessly. The art of happiness is not on seeing that what are the opportunities for me to complain and criticize and compare, but the art of happiness is to experience gratitude for what we have received and express that gratitude in the form of appreciation and encouragement to others. When we do this, every relationship will become a cause of joy. Otherwise, when Arjuna tells Krishna, Krishna, I want to be non-violent, Krishna says, nonsense. When two individuals develop a relationship, one individual is trying to control and exploit and use the other person for his enjoyment and for the pursuance of his false ego. And from the time a relationship is established between two human beings, violence begins at that very moment because of the feeling of exploitation of false ego. Therefore, my dear Arjuna, you want to be non-violent, you can only do that when you overcome and control and conquer and eliminate and destroy your false ego. And therefore, ahankriti makkarasya nakara tannishedaka tasmatu namasak kshetri swatantram pradishidhyate. When we say namaha, the word namaha is defined in this shloka. Namaha means you have ahankar and mamata. And because of that ahankar, each person is trying to conquer the other, control the other, use the other for one's own enjoyment, one's own exploitation. And therefore, namaha basically means na stands for no, and ma stands for ahankar and mamata, to say no to our false ego, to say no to our tendency to think that this is mine. And when we are in that consciousness, in that feeling of selflessness, gratitude and service, in every relationship there is scarcity, impediment, discomfort and unhappiness. But bahu parishrama chandana remana anila, anand padila mane dukha na ganila, pariksha kurite gopal koila agyadan, परीक्षा होइला शेषे होइला देवान ei bhakti bhakta priya Krishna vyavahar bujite amasava nahi adhikar. Sripad Madhavendra Puri demonstrated that the real happiness is not in calculating the difficulties I went through, that is transaction of business. When I count the number of problems and austerities I had to go through in this particular service, in this relationship, that is a transaction of business. In business we keep account. In a relationship filled with genuine emotions and feelings of selfless service, we do not keep any account. And therefore he says, Bahu parishrama chandana remuna anila, ananda padila, my ecstasy, my joy, my happiness increased. Madhavendra Puri's joy increased, although externally his discomfort was very high, but he did not focus on the austerity he was going through. He focused on the smile on his master's face. And therefore, Ananda Badila Mane Dukkha Na Ganila. The art of happiness is not in changing circumstances. The art of happiness is not in complaining about the facilities. The heart of happiness is in changing our focus. And therefore let us change our focus from being selfish to being selfless, from being what I get from this situation to how I can utilize the situation for the pleasure of Krishna, Krishna's devotees, and please everyone and others in a way by which their blessings and their joy becomes the cause of my pleasure in life. And that is known as Swarupagata Sukh. Swarupagata Sukh means the constitutional bona fide bliss, which is the birthright of every soul, which is to see the joy and the smile on Krishna's face, and that is reflected in the form of the joy and bliss on the smiles of the devotees' faces. And therefore, serving the Vaishnavas and serving members of the society is the means by which we can actually experience the real art of happiness. And ISKCON is right here to support all of you, to facilitate all of your efforts, to transform your family into a beautiful abode of Krishna and Krishna's message and Krishna's grace to flow. And we are very grateful to all those devotees here who are facilitating the spread of the message of the Bhagavad Gita by helping organize the activities of the ISKCON temple. We are grateful to the organizers and grateful to the host for allowing us to come and share a few words. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So if there are any questions from the audience, we can take a few. So I'll pass the mic around. Please speak into the mic so that others can also hear your question. Hare Krishna Prabhu. My question is not related to art of happiness. My question is about ISKCON movement. Why?
Can we first ask if anybody has something related to the topic first? If you don't mind.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the session on art of happiness. Very grateful to you. So probably you mentioned about exploitation, like in professional life there is exploitation by team members or managers, and at the same time you mentioned others about going beyond duty and working out of love. So how do we apply that principle in the professional world as compared to a devotional circumstance?
As I said, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes 4 levels of, motivation. The lowest is working out of fear. I am doing this. If I don't do this, I will lose my job. That is the lowest. The second is based on desire. If I do this, I'll get a raise. I'll get promoted. I'll get better opportunities. The third is you work out of a sense of duty, that it is my duty. I have been given this opportunity to serve in this capacity, so let me perform this as a sense of duty. These are the duty hours, and I am supposed to put my full energy, full effort to the best of my capacity, because people are trusting me, and if I put my energy, then particular problem is solved and people benefit. The fourth is that out of a sense of love, where you realize that yes, I am what I am today because Krishna the Supreme Lord allowed me to take birth in this world, breathe the air, eat the vegetables and the grains, which are all being mercifully supplied by His energies. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that Somo Bhutva Rasatmaka Utkramantam Sthitam Vapi Bhunjanam Bhagavanatam Vimudhanam Pashyanti Jnana. So he says, Gama Vishyate Bhutani Dharyam Ahamojasa Ushnami Chaushadi Sarva Somo Bhutva Rasatmaka. Krishna says, I am entering into the earth, keeping it in motion. Dharayami ahamojasa pushnami cha aushadhi. And all of these various aushadhis which we are having, the vegetables, I am entering into them also. And soma bhutva rasatmaka. And so, because of that, I am getting that opportunity. And then Krishna says, well, you may have all of these grains and vegetables, but how will you cook it? You need fire. So Krishna is saying, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita Pranapana Samayukta Pachamyannam Chaturvidham. That I am appearing as the fire, and thanks to that fire, I am allowing this fire to cook. And after it is cooked, it is offered and you are honoring the prasadam, then it needs to be digested. So I am also manifesting in the form of fire of digestion. So then when you realize that I am being given the energy and the intelligence, because if I get dementia, if I get Parkinson's, if I get that, with all the knowledge and education, I cannot function. It just takes one moment for that to happen. So I am grateful that my faculties are in order. I am grateful my eyes are in order. I am grateful I am able to do things. So when you actually realize the overall picture of how you are very blessed with so many positive things, then you rise above all the insignificant irritants which are causing you trouble. And then you try to see the positive and do the needful. Right? And therefore, Mahavipattav samsare yasmaret madhusudana vipattam tasya sampatti bhavet ityahashankara. When you go through difficulty or when you go through adversity, a person gets totally bewildered and distressed in adversity, and he feels, I should give this up. But in that period of adversity, if you actually try to understand the purpose behind it and take shelter of the Lord's message, vipattav tasya sampatti, that vipatti becomes sampatti. That problem, that trouble, that challenge which you are going through becomes your greatest asset to go to the next level of realizing that yes, there is a purpose behind this. And therefore, one has to appreciate in that mode. Like many years ago, I was going for a program in IIT Kharagpur, and our flight was from Mumbai to Calcutta and then 3 hours drive. So I had a couple of friends with me from America, who were visiting me. And we landed at Calcutta. When I came out, I found out that day is Bengal Bandh. So the vehicles don't move. So I thought program is cancelled. But they welcomed us with garlands. And then I asked, so program is cancelled today, Bengal Bandh? They said, no, program is on. I said, how will go? They said, we have come to pick you up in ambulance. And some ambulance is going that side. So we thought, okay, we'll, take a lift. So as I was entering into the ambulance, my 2 friends asked me, why are we going in ambulance? So I said, it's very difficult to explain to you, because I will first explain what is bandh to you. So I sat in front as the vehicle went, people were stopping us, and then at one point of time, one guy stopped me and said, I want to see who's behind. So I was in front and my two friends were behind, and with garlands around their neck after taking breakfast they were sleeping peacefully. So he looked inside and said, may their soul rest in peace. And within 3 hours we reached. So in every situation, there is always an opportunity to see what can be done within these constraints. So therefore, one of the greatest problems in the world today is cancer, amongst diseases. But the cancer of the body is definitely lethal, but more deadly is the cancer of the mind. And the cancer of the mind consists of comparing, complaining and criticizing. And when we compare, complain, criticize, this cancer of the mind eats us away from within. And therefore, people lose control over their mind, control over their senses. Currently, 300 million people across the world are experiencing depression and mental health disorders. And many times, because of frustration, people feel, I will release this anxiety by smoking. 1 billion smokers are there all over the world. Every single day, 18 billion cigarettes are smoked across the world. 6.5 trillion cigarettes are smoked every year. And you can imagine how it is actually affecting people in such a deadly manner. So therefore, we have to acknowledge that we have been given a great opportunity and focus on what you have and try to make a difference within whatever resources you have been provided. And that's the sense of love, where you are willing to sacrifice selflessly. When every person is in that consciousness, then the kind of energy which flows is very powerful. And therefore, not only the individual benefits, the organization, society, the nation, and the whole world will experience tremendous transformation. Okay? Yeah. Any other question? Yeah, I think he had. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu again. While Sanatan or Indian spirituality focuses and goes towards Advaita, ISKCON spirituality goes towards Dvaita, which is similar to Abrahamic faith. That's the first thing. Second thing around it is that you believe only in monolithism, which is again close to Abrahamic religion versus Indian spirituality, where there could be a multiple consciousness source. And that's why you refer Krishna as Lord with some other God, or by Devata you refer as a lady God. So should we be worrying that ISKCON is trying to take away spirituality from Indian and Sanatan perspective and moving towards Abrahamic religions?
Yeah, so first of all, as I mentioned before, people across the world are very well aware that when Srila Prabhupada came to America in 1966 and he established ISKCON in New York, from that point onwards, he had more than 5,000 to 6,000 disciples who were all from different parts of the world. And so the greatest impact which ISKCON has created is establishing more than 700 temples and communities across the world, cow protection programs in various countries, distribution of Bhagavad Gita literature, which I already described to you, in countries even as remote as Siberia and Russia and so many other places. And across the world, there are at least a few million people who are practicing Sanatana Dharma thanks to the effort of His divine grace and His teachings. So to begin with, let us first of all acknowledge the fact that millions of people across the world have benefited from giving up, whether Abrahamic, non-Abrahamic, Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, that let us keep separate. But alcohol, cigarette, bidi, tambaku, charas, ganja. So at least there have been millions of people who have become completely freed from the influence of these kind of intoxicating habits, various kinds of deviations in character. Their character has transformed because every ISKCON devotee takes the vow of chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna and following regulative principles, no meat eating. So millions and millions of cows and other animals' lives have been saved. No intoxication. The per capita average liquor consumption in the world is 8 liters per annum. So therefore, no liquor. So that is also a positive benefit. As I described, the amount of, things as far as $300 million worth of damage happens because of smoking and related problems. So no smoking, no intoxication, and tobacco creates so much of cancer. And one of the biggest challenges in the world, especially in India, is all kinds of products due to the tobacco. Right? And illicit sex, so many diseases and so many other kinds of moral problems are created and families are destroyed because of this. And so that is a big issue, and we take vows of abstaining from that. And gambling of various sorts, which create so many different kinds of problems with morality, economy. Las Vegas, there was a hospital, and in that hospital they found that the people are dying before time in the ICU. Terminally ill patients in ICU are dying before time. When they did a investigation, they found that the nurses there had got addicted to gambling in the casinos. Off duty time. But that addiction was so powerful that when they were on duty also, they started gambling and they could not resist. And they started putting bets. Who will go first, bed number 12 or bed number 13? And they started placing bets on that. And when they started losing, they started switching off life support system. So therefore, when somebody is sick, he has symptoms of sickness, and the symptoms will vary. But the bottom line is pain in the body. And therefore, various types of medical systems exist in society. When in pain, some people go to allopathy, some go to homeopathy, others go to naturopathy. When nothing works, you go to Tirupati. But we cannot fight. You cannot tell your friend, why you are going to homeopathy? I am going to allopathy. You should also come to allopathy. Arey Baba, whatever works for you. So therefore, in a hospital, there are various kinds of medical facilities available. Important thing is become disease free. And what is disease free mean? You remove this disease from your body so that the pain goes away. Remove the tumor, remove the disease, whatever it takes. So therefore, in our Sanatan Dharma, the greatest asset is many approaches have been given. Allopathy, naturopathy, homeopathy, Tirupati, everything is there. So therefore, we should appreciate that the multiplicity described in the Sanatana Dharma is actually a great benediction. And therefore Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita explains. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna? That Sahayagya Prajasrishta Purovacha Prajapati Anena Prasavishwadhyam Yeso Ishtakamadur. That ultimately you must do yajna, which I have begun. Yajna must be done. Krishna says in Gita. Yajna shishtajana janto muchyante sarvakil vishay. Ye muchyante sarvakil vishay bhunjante tu agham papa. Ye pachanti atma karanat. Krishna says food must be offered. Every single day ISKCON distribute in India alone 3 million plates of prasadam. And practically everybody tries to offer the food at home and take. One of the biggest causes of climate change is, problem due to water, and the greatest water consumption is happening in meat industry. And therefore the largest vegetarian country in the world is India at 40%. 40% of population is vegetarian. The second vegetarian country in the world is Israel at 13%. So such a large difference between 40% and 13%. And therefore, we are trying to inspire people to refrain from this. And so, ultimately, Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that agyascha ashraddhadhanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti naparo na sukham samshayatma. My dear Arjuna, do not be doubtful, do not be filled with skepticism, because you should understand that I am the cause of all causes, source of everybody, but all are part of my cabinet. So Krishna has a huge cabinet of 33 crore various gods to assist him in maintaining this material universe. So you have to understand the overall picture, and then considering that, you actually understand how and where I fit in with respect to that. And therefore, amongst the various people who have been trying to practice Sanatana Dharma and preach Sanatana Dharma, ISKCON has also been in the forefront in trying to distribute Sanatana Dharma. And you'll be happy to know that in last year, Chicago, September 9, 2018, the World Hindu Congress was organized at Chicago. The World Hindu Congress is held once in 4 years, and it is organized by some of the most premier Hindu leaders from India and from across the world. And in that World Hindu Congress, ISKCON was one of the 4 organizations apart from Chinmaya Mission and Swaminarayan and the Gorakhpur Gita Press. ISKCON was the 4th organization to receive a special inaugural plenary session award for spreading the message of Bhagavad Gita far and wide in multiple languages across the world. So therefore, when someone is in an allopathy doctor's conference, in that allopathy doctor's conference, every doctor is making presentation on allopathy only. So suddenly Ayurveda practitioner cannot stand up and say, hey, what is going on? Only allopathy, what about Ayurveda? For that there has to be different conference. So in allopathy conference, if allopathy is being discussed and we are discussing about Bhakti Yoga and Krishna's message of Bhakti Yoga from the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore we are inviting those who are interested in practicing this particular solution recommended in the Bhagavad Gita for your problems in life. It is not a force, it is not binding, it is simply a humble offering. It has worked with us, it has helped us, we are trying to share with you. Please take it. So on that note, we will now end with 10-minute kirtan and demonstrate how to do the Harinam Sankirtan by chanting the holy name. Can you bring the harmony? So how many of you are interested in singing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in Kirtan? Raise your hand. Haribo. So although the prasadam is being set up, but we will focus our attention on the holy name. Okay? So all of you please sing along with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare